Okay, so now let's move on to our next topic for the show. So let's now talk about the financial results this past week got revealed. Bob Iger, CEO, was talking about all the results. Generally, Disney was up. They were down in certain areas, such as the streaming network was bringing them down. But generally, just looking here at some of the figures, I shall just read out some of the core ones here. In terms of the parks, experiences, and products, which is now the kind of the consumer products line, so obviously the merchandise thing, they increased up to 6.2 billion. So they had a good month. They were up. Their income was up 15%. That was good, and that was primarily due to higher attendance and occupied room rates at Hong Kong Disneyland Resort.
And higher expenses.
Yes, that's kind of quite interesting about that Hong Kong Disneyland Resort. I literally did just book my hotel for Hong Kong Disneyland this weekend. So
oh boy, which one did you pick?
I actually upgraded the full lot and went for the Hong Kong Disneyland one. I decided, yeah, I was going to stay at the Explorers, and then like last minute went, you know what? I'm probably never going to go back to that park. So we saved a bit on going to the Toy Story Hotel in Shanghai. Let's have the blowout the weekend or the week in style. So I've been helping to the Shanghai and the Hong Kong side of things with my bookings.
I'm going there in 2 years, hopefully. That or Japan.
Yes. Japan's lovely. I went there about 15 years ago. I'm hoping one day to go back. It's going to be interesting to see what they do there. They were also up in the US. They were higher occupancy and higher attendance at Walt Disney World. Guests were spending more on average ticket prices and food, beverages, and merchandise spending. In terms of consumer products, this was grown by Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3, the licensing coming in from that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
highest selling game of the year so far.
Yeah, and it's a great game. I know you were literally just playing it just before.
Yeah, I just beat Dark Aqua in critical mode. I'm going through the game again in critical mode. I never did higher than normal, so I'm getting my butt whooped.
I'll be honest, I only played on easy and enjoyed it. I don't think I did die the whole game through it, but I'm a wimpy gamer, old man gamer now, where I just like to run through, have the time, have no frustrations, just finish the bosses first attempt, rather than how I used to play with Kingdom Hearts 1 a few years ago, playing it on normal and getting so frustrated that I kept leaving the game for months. Kingdom Hearts 3, I loved it because I started on easy and just cruised through. It was I enjoyed it probably a lot more than the previous games, I think, because it seemed a lot more smoother, a little bit faster, not quite so much running around endlessly trying to look for stuff that you had to look at guides. You just felt like you could run through the game a little bit
easier.
easier.
I just did 100%. I went on standard mode, and I only died twice. Once to the tornado boss in Olympus, and once to the final boss, because I was literally leveling up, grinding while I was looking for the items. Same thing in critical mode. I'm basically over grinding and over leveling because I'm basically going through lots of enemies trying to find all the chests and all the epic Mickey emblems.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think I'm at that point now where I love playing the games, but there's other stuff to be playing. I'd much rather jump into something else since then. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I'm not surprised at all that the money was up. Apparently there was a decrease down in merchandise licensing business.
Yeah, really makes sense. People are barely buying toys anymore. It's all about iPads.
Yeah, well, this is the trouble is that obviously merchandise, that quarter would have been, I think that was January, February, March, and right after Christmas, you got all the holiday stuff, so no one's really buying toys. And just generally as a whole, as we said, toy sales are down, merchandise sales. You see that there's a lot less merchandise around than they used to. They've still got the shops full of stuff, but they're not pushing merchandise as much because I think adults have been maybe burnt out on collectibles. You know, they're a little bit more picky. I probably fall into that line. I no longer buy lots of little stuff. I will tend to hold out and buy the bigger things. Or I don't buy as much as I used to. I say that I'm still buying a lot of tabletop game stuff, but generally I don't buy as many like toys as I used to because finances, and also it's like actually I'd rather have like Legos. I'd rather buy £150 set
Yeah,
than
I really do.
15 little ones.
I don't even buy video games that much anymore because over here in Canada, we have a video game tax where it's $80 without tax, and with tax it comes to about $95 to $100. Especially considering toys, I like all of these Infinity figures all around my room. It's like it's crazy how much toys are priced these days. I looked at a Ninja Turtle and it was like $10-15 for an action figure, but I could go get a big collectible statue for like $100, and it's much more detailed, so it's worth the price rather than getting the little things. And I think that's what's happening with Disney. Like, they're not buying all the little knickknacks. We're buying like Funko Pops or the Tsum Tsums or the big collectible statues from Square Enix for their Kingdom Hearts. You can have like a whole bunch of statues for much cheaper, and it's gonna look good on your.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, at the minute, we've got lots of different merchandise products around. We've got things like the shufflers, the tiny big feet, but there's nothing really at this, the days of, because I feel like even Funko, that's not as hot as it once was. I think a lot of people have burnt out on that. Zum Zum is definitely not what it used to be. The Vinamations went
Except
away.
in Japan.
Yeah. I mean, it's like over here in the UK, Canada, US, the Zum Zum releases have really
gone
dropped
down.
Yeah, there used to be we're getting to one point there it was nearly once every 2 weeks. Now it's been months since the last release. They're doing these tiny big feet. They don't seem to be kind of gravitating that same way.
And the ones with the little smells in them, like you put like a little packet that smells like apples and like Mickey doll, and there's the
the Uffies.
Yeah, and the blind bag dolls they started selling at the parks. Like Pirates, Mickey Snacks, and Japan has a Bear University line that didn't even make it here.
Yeah, I think there's like squishables or something like that. Yeah, they've been trying some different things. I don't know necessarily if people are buying into the same thing they used to. Again, the audience that was buying it has maybe, they've realized, we've got other money to spend things, and that's the problem. Pins still seem to be going on, but just generally, I can see why the financial results are bringing it down. However, like you say, for you like playing games, I mean, I'd recommend checking out Game Pass. Have you got an Xbox or are you just PlayStation?
Just PlayStation, because Xbox barely has anything that interests me. I'm more of a platformer kind of guy, and the Xbox is more like about shooters or action games, and that's really not my thing.
Yeah, the only reason I say that was because I've signed up for Xbox Game Pass, which has like 100+ games. There's lots of Star Wars, lots of Marvel, and lots of Disney stuff on there, and that's kind of that's a great way of kind of keeping up with kind of subscription stuff. I think PlayStation Now will be getting some more bits and pieces later, but nevertheless, let's continue on with the other bits of pieces from that financial results. The studio entertainment revenues were up. Basically, they didn't do as well as they did last year, primarily because they didn't have Black Panther or Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Ricklin time bombed.
This was just the last quarter, so I think this was just going off of the last 3 months. So
Nutcracker then.
I think that was before it as well. So they, it's just, I think it's one of those situations of.
So for last quarter, when does it start?
I think the last quarter was January to March. So they only really had Captain Marvel in there and Dumbo. So they only really had two. I think because they were waiting, I personally feel that they were holding a couple of them back from February because they wanted to make sure that they didn't go to Netflix because that deal expired in end of January. So I think they were holding on for them. But they only really had those two movies. And I don't think Dumbo really made an impact. I'm going to wait.
I think it bombed. It only made a few more millions than the lowest earning remake so far, which is Alice Through the Looking Glass. And it barely made over 100 million. That's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold out and wait and sort of see what Dumbo's like, but I'll be honest, I didn't go see it at the cinema. I did, we've got Aladdin coming up next week. I'm tempted to go see it. I did ask my wife the other day, and she was a little bit like, oh, then.
Well, you should. It's still Alan Menken doing the music.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those situations. I think there's live action ones. I think this quarter is going to be a lot hotter. They've got Endgame, Aladdin, Penguins. They've got
Toy
Story 4. So it's going to be a big month this month. But generally, on a whole, the results were up. But yeah, the trouble is with quarterlies is there's always that sort of side thing, really, of they can really be twisted or changed depending on what come out. And also, they can look really bad if the last month was really good, but then like the next quarter might look well up because this one was down. So it's very tricky, and it's better to look kind of on a year as a whole rather than quarterly to quarterly.
Yeah.
Again, I always listen to the investor calls. We did go into that on quite a bit of detail on the What's on Disney Plus podcast this week, me and James, where we kind of went, because most of the questions were about Disney Plus for that one. But there we go. So that was the kind of like some of the highlights of the financial results. Let us know in the comments below which one of why you think it maybe wasn't as great for the consumer product side in some respects. I'd love to know your thoughts.